It was a quiet morning, the kind that feels ordinary in every possible way. The house was still. The radio hummed softly in the background. A man in his early 70s sat at the kitchen table, wrapped in the comfort of routine. He reached for his coffee, just as he had every single morning for decades. The cup was warm. The motion was familiar. But in that split second between thought and action, something went terribly wrong. His brain sent the signal to grip, yet his fingers hesitated. The response arrived late. The mug slipped. Scalding liquid spilled across his wrist and onto the table. The sound of the cup striking ceramic echoed through the room. His wife turned at the noise. At first, she thought it was only an accident. Then she saw his face. Not panic. Not pain. Confusion. A blank stillness that had never been there before. His right hand hovered just above the table, half open, as if it had forgotten what it was meant to do. There was a pause that did not belong in a moment so simple. Her heart raced, but her mind stayed clear. Only weeks before, she had listened to a talk about the earliest warning signs of stroke, the quiet signals that appear before the dramatic ones. She remembered one detail above all others. Watch the hands. She asked him to lift both arms. One rose smoothly. The other lagged behind, just slightly, but enough to confirm her fear. She did not wait. She did not debate. She called emergency services immediately. Paramedics arrived within minutes. At the hospital, doctors confirmed what had already begun silently at the breakfast table. A stroke was in progress. Because she acted when she did, treatment began in time. Blood flow was restored. Damage was limited. Weeks later, he walked back into that same kitchen under his own strength. Stories like this are not rare. They are simply rarely told from the beginning, from the moment when the body first whispers instead of screams. I am Dr. Howard Tucker, and I have spent my career studying the aging brain and the fragile chain of signals that keeps our bodies moving, thinking, and alive. Over all those decades, one truth has remained constant. The first minute of a stroke matters more than anything that follows. Miss that minute, and the consequences can be permanent. Honor it, and lives can be saved. Today, I want to show you something that is already with you, something you rely on every second of the day, yet almost no one is taught to use as an early warning system. It requires no equipment, no clinic, no test results. It is quiet. It is simple. And it can reveal danger before the body collapses into crisis. That tool is your hands. Most people are taught to look for a crooked smile or slurred words when they think of a stroke. Those signs are real, but by the time they appear, the clock is already racing. What almost no one is taught is that the earliest warning is often far quieter and far easier to miss. It begins in the hands. A spoon slip fort nos cliraisons. A shirt button suddenly feels difficult to manage. A coffee mug tilts even though the grip felt steady. These moments are brushed off as fatigue, arthritis, or just another sign of getting older. Yet time and again, those small failures of coordination turn out to be the first outward signs of trouble deep inside the brain. Every voluntary movement of the hand begins in a narrow strip of tissue in the brain called the motor cortex. It is the command center for motion. From there, electrical signals race down the spinal cord, branch into peripheral nerves, and finally reach the small muscles that control the fingers. This system depends entirely on constant blood flow. Oxygen carried by the blood keeps those signals fast, precise, and reliable. The blood vessels feeding this network function much like a vast system of roads. When those roads are clear, messages travel without delay. When one becomes narrowed or partially blocked, the signal still gets through, but it arrives late and weakened. This is why the earliest changes rarely involve dramatic paralysis or collapse. At first, the disruption is subtle. The hand still moves, but it hesitates. The grip still forms, but it lacks perfect timing. Coordination feels just slightly off, as if the hand and the brain are no longer perfectly synchronized. It is not weakness in the muscles. It is a slowdown in communication. Like a song played at the wrong tempo, the movement loses its natural rhythm. The reason the hand reveals these changes so early is its precision. The fingers contain a dense network of sensory and motor nerves. They require exact timing to function normally. Even the smallest interruption in blood supply can disturb this delicate balance. Larger muscle groups, like those in the legs or shoulders, can compensate longer without showing obvious signs. The hand cannot hide delays as easily. It becomes the body's earliest messenger. Neurologists have long relied on subtle hand testing for this reason. A tiny delay in finger movement can reveal which region of the brain is being affected and how urgently intervention is needed. Long before speech falters or the face changes, the hands often declare that something is wrong. The tragedy is that many of these early warnings are dismissed as meaningless. The body speaks in soft signals before it ever shouts. Learning to recognize those signals can mean the difference between rapid recovery and irreversible damage. Now it is time to learn a movement so simple that it often surprises people how much information it can reveal. This is a test used quietly in neurological examinations because it provides a clear picture of how smoothly the brain and hands are communicating. Begin by sitting upright in a comfortable position with both feet on the floor. Lift both arms so your hands are level with your shoulders, palms facing forward. Let your shoulders drop so there is no tension in your neck or upper back. Slowly open and close your fingers as though you are gently compressing a soft object. Keep the motion steady and controlled. Perform this movement 10 times at the same calm pace. The goal is not speed. The goal is coordination. What a healthy response feels like is light, balanced, and symmetrical. Both hands move together as if guided by a single rhythm. The fingers open fully and return smoothly without hesitation. There is no stiffness, no lag, no sense of resistance. A concerning response feels different. One hand may move a fraction of a second behind the other. The fingers may feel reluctant, heavy, or uncertain. Some people notice that one hand cannot maintain the same rhythm. Others feel as though one side briefly loses the sequence of motion. This is not a strength problem. It is a timing problem. Each time your fingers open and close, thousands of nerve impulses travel from the motor cortex of the brain, down the spinal cord, and through fine peripheral nerves into the tiny muscles that control your hand. This process requires a continuous flow of oxygen-rich blood. When the blood supply is healthy, those signals arrive instantly and the movement feels automatic. When a small clot begins to form or a vessel narrows, oxygen delivery drops. The nerve signal does not stop completely. It slows. That delay is what the hands reveal. Even a brief disruption in blood flow can interfere with the precise coordination required for fine finger movements. Larger muscles can often compensate for early changes without obvious signs. The hands cannot. They depend on perfect timing for even simple tasks. That is why this movement acts like a direct conversation with the brain. You are observing how efficiently your nervous system is transmitting instructions in real time. If a delay appears during this test, it does not guarantee a stroke is occurring at that moment. But it does indicate that communication within the brain's movement pathway is under stress. That information is invaluable. It provides an opportunity to act before severe damage develops. This is why neurologists value this small motion so highly. It transforms something ordinary into a powerful early warning tool, one that requires no equipment, no clinic, and no waiting. Only attention. This simple hand movement does far more than reveal hidden danger. When practiced regularly, it becomes a form of active protection for the brain itself. Each slow, intentional opening and closing of the fingers sends a surge of blood toward the regions of the brain responsible for precision, balance, and coordination. This repeated increase in circulation strengthens the delicate partnership between the nervous system and the vascular system, a relationship scientists refer to as neurovascular coupling. Healthy blood vessels nourish active nerve cells, and active nerve cells, in turn, help keep those vessels flexible and responsive. It is a cycle of reinforcement that protects brain tissue from gradual decline. Oxygen is the key element in this process. Brain cells demand a constant, rich supply of it to remain sharp and functional. When circulation improves, oxygen delivery improves alongside it. This allows neurons to fire with greater accuracy and consistency. Over weeks and months, this steady stimulation trains the brain to maintain faster response times, stronger coordination, and better resilience under physical stress. In practical terms, it helps preserve steady hands, confident movement, and reliable reflexes as the years advance. The timing of this movement also plays an important role in its protective effect. Performing it in the morning helps restore circulation after a long period of rest, when blood flow can be slower and vessels less responsive. It gently signals the nervous system to awaken and prepare for the day's demands. En evening sessions servent à différents purposes. As activity slows and prolonged sitting becomes more common, circulation naturally decreases. Repeating the movement at night helps prevent stagnation and supports steady oxygen delivery as the body prepares for sleep. Duration is far less important than regularity. A full routine can be completed in less than a minute. 10 slow, controlled squeezes, a brief rest, and 10 more are sufficient to activate the necessary pathways. This small investment of time is easy to incorporate into existing habits. It can be done during a television program, while waiting for a pot to heat, or before rising from bed in the morning. The movement requires no special clothing, no equipment, and no preparation. What gives this exercise its true power is consistency. Just as daily dental care prevents long-term damage to teeth and gums, daily stimulation of the hand-to-brain connection helps preserve the health of the nervous system. Skipped days weaken that protective effect. Repeated days strengthen it. Over time, this simple ritual becomes a quiet form of insurance for the brain, supporting communication, balance, and awareness long before serious problems appear. For those who live with arthritis, tremors, stiffness, or reduced hand strength, this movement remains both safe and valuable when performed with care. The hands do not need to move far or fast to provide meaningful feedback. Before beginning, gently warming the hands under running water or resting them on a warm cloth can loosen tight joints and encourage blood flow. This simple preparation often makes the motion smoother and more comfortable. Mild soreness from stiffness is acceptable. Sharp pain is not. Pain is a protective signal from the body and should never be pushed through. If pain appears suddenly or feels unusual, the movement should be stopped at once and discussed with a healthcare provider without delay. One of the most serious risks for older adults is not the presence of weakness itself, but the tendency to dismiss small deviations as normal aging. Subtle changes often fade into the background of daily life. À qui slip from the finger. A spoon tips when it never did before. A sleeve feels harder to button. These are the moments that frequently go unnoticed or are explained away. Another dangerous habit is waiting for discomfort as proof that something is wrong. Strokes rarely announce themselves with pain. They often present as confusion, disconnection, or a strange loss of control. By the time pain appears, if it appears at all, critical time may already be gone. Another common mistake is turning this simple neurological check into a strength challenge. Squeezing forcefully does not provide better information. In fact, it makes the movement less accurate as a test. Tension masks subtle delays. Rapid, aggressive motion overwhelms the very signals that need to be observed. The purpose of this exercise is awareness, not exertion. Slow, even, and controlled movement allows the nervous system to reveal how well communication is flowing. Skipping the movement on days when everything feels normal is another hidden danger. The value of this routine lies in its consistency. Regular performance trains awareness and makes it easier to detect new changes when they arise. Without that baseline, small warning signs are harder to recognize. Maintenance provant surprise. Reaction often comes too late. There are 3 specific hand-related warning signs that require immediate attention. The first is a sudden sensation that one hand feels heavy, numb, or unfamiliar. The second is an abrupt loss of fine coordination, such as being unable to pick up a small object that would normally pose no difficulty. The third is a noticeable temperature difference between the hands, where one becomes cooler without a clear external cause. If any of these signs appear, especially when paired with confusion, difficulty speaking, or uneven facial movement, emergency services must be contacted at once. Waiting even a short period can result in permanent damage. When seconds are lost, brain tissue is lost as well. Too often, families replay the earliest signs only after everything has changed. They speak of small moments that seemed harmless at the time. À ustensile slipping from tirade fingé. A name signed with an unsteady hand. A brief pause in the middle of a familiar task. At the time, those moments felt insignificant. In truth, they were the opening notes of a warning that went unheard. Those fleeting seconds are not small at all. They are the window in which outcomes are decided. The enquête document every signal sans brain. They reflect intention, precision, and timing. When blood flow weakens or neural communication falters, the hands reveal it before words ever do. A tremor, a delay, a loss of coordination, these are not accidents without meaning. They are messages. When that pattern changes without explanation, it is never coincidence. The body speaks long before it collapses into crisis. Awareness does not mean living in fear. Awareness is clarity. It is the ability to recognize when something is out of place and to respect that signal without hesitation. Fear paralyse. Awareness mobilizes. It allows families to respond instead of react. It creates the space for action while action still matters. This simple hand movement offers something that even the most advanced medical technology cannot always guarantee on its own: time. Time to seek care before damage spreads. Time to preserve speech, mobility, and memory. Time to return to ordinary mornings instead of hospital rooms. Time protecte indépendance. Time protects dignity. Time protecte life. When this movement becomes part of the daily routine, it quietly reinforces the connection between the brain and the body. It also strengthens the connection between loved ones. Teaching it to a spouse, a parent, or a friend is not an act of worry. It is an act of care. Sharing this knowledge extends protection beyond the individual and into the family itself. Trusting what the body reveals requires confidence. It means taking small disruptions seriously rather than dismissing them. It means responding quickly without waiting for certainty to arrive. Certainty often comes too late. The body rarely sends false warnings when communication begins to fail. Listening early is an act of wisdom. Strength is often misunderstood. It is not measured only in physical force. True strength lies in awareness, in responsiveness, in the willingness to act when action still makes a difference. When the hands change their story, the response must be swift and deliberate. Health is not held in distant machines or future appointments alone. It is present in the signals that appear each day. It remains, quite literally, within reach.